Hello everyone and welcome to another one of my mini set reviews where I'll be sharing my top picks for the new upcoming set, Phyrexia All Will Be One. The card that I'll be taking a look at are the red colored cards. This is the third video of my top picks video. I've already covered white and black in the previous video and I'll be going over each of the other colors in another video. The criteria for what makes it into my top picks are 1. Individually strong card, or 2. Has synergy. The card may be weak, but considering the other cards, it could be good in the format. And 3. A card that is unique and has interesting build around with potential. So with that in mind, let's talk about the first card from my list coming at number 5. Number 5, we got a card called Furnace Punisher. This is a 3-mana 3/3 warrior with Menace. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Furnace Punisher deals 2 damage to that player unless they control 2 or more basic lands. The requirement for basic land text is very nice in a format such as Historic, where aside from mono green elves, most dual colored decks will be playing 1 or 2 basics in the deck. One thing to note, dual lands such as Hallowed Fountains are not considered basic lands, but a dual land with basic land typing. So even if they play those shock lands, they'll still be taking damage from this card every single turn. And between this and Eidolon, I'm pretty excited to try this card out in mono red burn to see whether or not it has a place in this format. Unfortunately, in Explorer, Mono Green Devotion is absurdly popular at the current moment, so I don't exactly see Furnace Punisher being a main deckable card, but as a sideboard card, I think it could still have a place in the format. And next up, coming up at number 4, we got Koth, Fire of Resistance. This is a 4-mana planeswalker with 4 starting loyalty, and for the uptick +2, search your library for a basic mountain card and reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. For a -3, Koth, Fire of Resistance deals damage to target creature equal to the number of mountains you control. And for the ultimate -7, you get an emblem with whenever a mountain enters the battlefield under your control, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target. Considering that this is a 4-mana red planeswalker, Chandra Torch of Defiance does come to mind when considering the viability of this card. Both of their plus loyalty does comparatively draw you a card, and the minus loyalty removes a creature. And even the ultimate is very similar in dealing damage to any target you want, which would sign Game Over. I do think Chandra is a bit better in comparison, but I think it will still be able to find its niche in decks that utilize a card such as Cavalier of Flame in a Fires of Adventure deck, as Koth can find the 5th land for Cavalier of Flames, and Cavalier can cycle extra lands that Koth has fetched in search for other powerful spells. And since you are filling your graveyard with lands from Koth, once Cavalier gets removed, it should be able to deal massive amount of damage to opponent's life total. And let's not forget that this is gaining 2 loyalty per turn, which is going to let Koth get the ultimate quite quickly. And next up on the list, coming at number 3, we have Cacophony Scamp. This is a 1-mana 1/1 creature with a relevant creature typing Phyrexian Goblin Warrior. Whenever Cacophony Scamp deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice it. If you do, proliferate. And when Cacophony Scamp dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. The warrior typing allows the usage of a card such as Resolute Strike to equip a card onto this card, and as you'd have probably suspected, if you equip a Colossus Hammer onto this card on turn 2, you can deal lethal damage by sacrificing itself, dealing damage equal to its power to opponent. Although the Hammer Time archetype will get much stronger in Historic and Explorer due to this card, it's still not at a level of a modern format deck where Hammer Time decks can grind out opponents. And without Sigarda's aid, which exists in Pioneer and not in Historic and Explorer, I do worry that the deck will still be linear that loses to a single removal spell. However, considering that this is a turn to win, I still believe you'll be seeing this degenerate combo very often in Best of 1 Arena ladder. And coming up at number 2, we have Capricious Hellraiser. This is a 6-mana card 4/4 with a creature type Phyrexian Dragon This spell costs 3 less to cast if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard. It does fly, and when this card enters the battlefield, exile 3 cards at random from the graveyard, choose a non-creature, non-land card from among them, and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. I believe this is the type of card to spawn a new kind of deck. It is an incredibly powerful card that you can build around casting many spells to fuel the graveyard, and once it's full, you play out the Capricious Hellraiser into casting more spells for value. However, I do believe in Historic, for example, you might be tempted to play something like Faithless Looting with this card, but I have a suspicion it might be a trap because it says it enters the battlefield exiling random 3 cards from the graveyard, then you get to choose a non-creature, non-land card from among them. So if you loot a bunch of lands into the graveyard, this card may not get the full effect. Now, is it worth playing a card 3 mana 4/4 without the full effect? I'm not entirely sure. I'm leaning more towards the unplayable side. So I do believe something like a control-ish deck with these Hellraisers in something like an Izzet or Jeskai Shell would fit the card well. Now, coming up at number 1, I had a very hard time deciding between this card and the Capricious Hellraiser, but I decided to go along with this card instead. At number 1, we have Exuberant Fuseling. It is a 1 mana 1/1 with a relevant creature type, Phyrexian Goblin Warrior. It has Trample, and Exuberant Fuseling gets +1/+0 for each oil counter on it. When this card enters battlefield and whenever another creature or artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put an oil counter on this card. This is quite the powerhouse for a 1 mana card. In a Historic Goblin deck as of moment, 1-drops are almost non-existent except for the Skirt Prospector. And considering that Goblin decks have many ways to sacrifice their own creatures, this is kind of a must-kill target that has Trample where its power keeps growing. One thing you might not have known is the fact that when tokens die, they actually do go to the graveyard. And in this case, it would trigger the Fuseling into getting an extra oil counter, growing its power more and more. And let me tell you, Rakdos goblins can make many goblin tokens, making this an incredible threat for just 1 mana. And that is going to be my top 5 red cards of the set, and one special mention to another card called Vindictive Flamestoker. This card didn't quite make it into the list just because of its high upkeep. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on this card. And as you can see, the activation for its ability is 7 cost, but it gets a cost reduction for how many oil counters this card has at the time. But considering that it costs 7, it requires 6 spells to get the full cost reduction, I just don't think that this will actually happen before this card gets removed. But the fact that this is a wizard is what makes this card interesting, as wizards in Historic are one of the top tier decks at the moment. But that is going to be it for this video. Tell me what you guys think. These are my personal favorites from the set, and I would love to know what your favorites are from the color red in the set. And as always, if you found this helpful or enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.